opportunity to thank Mr. Jonathan for accepting this invitation. Through the Director of Communications at the office, Mr. Babukar Kamara, our very good friend. I remember when we had this idea, in a very short notice, I reached out to him. He said, Omar, just give me time. It's an idea that it's good, and I will engage the authorities and those that are supposed to be in the picture. And without wasting time, he reverted back to me, which clearly shows his intention and his commitment to this relationship between the SJAG and the Gambia Football Federation, but particularly the national team. So, Mr. Kamara, thank you for opening your door to the SJAG. Ladies and gentlemen, this event is very, very important, and I want us to use this opportunity to ask questions and interact with Mr. Jonathan. I'm sure we have so much to talk about. As storytellers that are so much keen on national team matters, we have so much questions to ask. But this is going to be like a recurrent event for the SJAG, because we believe in dialogue, we believe in interaction, we believe in your mantra, your slogan, forward together. And together we can move forward. But along the way, as people that are set to hold authorities accountable for their actions, we are going to exercise that. But that does not mean the relationship between these two organizations should not be cordial. The press, or us as sports journalists, we want to see you as our good friends. We want to be part of your success. We want to be with you as the head coach of the national team for the success of Gambian football. But along the way, expect our genuine opinions, strong criticisms that can only be geared towards improving what we all belong, what we all love, that is the national team's success. As the head coach, I will tell you, be rest assured that in this house today is full of professionals, very ethical journalists that have the country at heart and that want to see the development of our national team. And that is why all of them are here today. And that is why we selected them. It's not all these sports journalists are here today, but we did select not the best, but the lucky ones to attend and interact with you. So on that note, I want to thank all of you for coming, and I look forward to a very interactive session, a session that is going to shape the future between the SJAG and the Gambia Football Federation, particularly the communications department and the national team. We believe from here we are going to continue our working relationship very closely for the betterment of the national team and for Gambian football. So on that note, thank you, and then do have a fruitful.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Well, I'm not the one known for my oratory skills, but then I will try my best. Which one? This one?
The one you're holding.
Yes. It's off? What is it? Thank you. Well, first of all, Omar and team, congratulations for this very wonderful initiative. Now, when our president, because we are all members of the sports journalism fraternity, Omar Jaju, shared this exciting and brilliant idea with me, it was highly embraced and encouraged by the leadership of the Gambia Football Federation. After discussing the matter with the coach, who Omar can attest, within few minutes, the coach had already approved in principle, but then since he's the key player in this, but I had to also discuss such with the authorities that concern, and I can tell you that the president, Mr. Lamin Kawabajo, the general secretary, Lamin Jase, and the general manager of our national teams, Usman Drame, we are all engaged, and they all welcome this initiative. In fact, the president, Mr. Bajo, who is currently in Cairo attending the CAF Extraordinary General Assembly, has asked me to extend his regards to the SJAG through the president, Mr. Omar Jaju, and he also asked me to congratulate all of you on his behalf for this very wonderful initiative. He has assured that this is the first, but certainly it would not be the last of such initiative between the SJAG and the Football House. This event is very important to us, just as it is to the SJAG, because in today's world, national sports associations and federations and the media seek an inseparable relationship, as we are both exert endless and continuous influence. Now, we have what I will call a symbiotic relationship, because one cannot exist without the other. So this is a marriage between sweethearts for eternity. As a federation, we want to see more and more people following our sport, which is football. And that we can only achieve through the full and transparent participation of the media. Excuse me, someone is... because through your platforms, you offer the athletes and teams the opportunity to promote our programs and activities, and I want to implore you to continue on that. At the GFF, I would want to reassure you of our open door policy. We are aware that football cannot get the attention that it requires without the full participation of the media. So this is what we've recognized, and this is how we want to continue partnering with the journalism fraternity to ensure that we continue to create both the environment and the opportunity for you to practice your profession to the best of your abilities. Finally, on my own behalf, I would want to congratulate the SJAG through its president, Mr. Omar Jaju, for this laudable initiative. You and your association are on the path with this young and vibrant and dynamic leadership. I can assure you that we will continue to partner with you. And finally, I would want to disclose that we are all aware that the Gambia will participate in the upcoming 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Kenya first and then Ivory Coast. The coach will unveil his squad in the form of a press conference on Thursday at midday at Football House. In fact, later tonight, we are going to release the preliminary squad. Yes, so you can see that these are exciting times. I know you have a lot of questions to ask, but I can tell you that you can actually you can save some of your questions for Thursday. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any to ask. But be rest assured, like I said, the preliminary squad, which is the first of its kind as well, is going to be released later tonight, and the coach will host a press conference on Thursday at Football House at midday. Thank you.
Yes, well, first of all, hopefully I didn't miss anybody when you came in. I've shaken a lot of hands this evening, so hopefully we've mostly said hello on a one-to-one basis. But yeah, just thank you to Omar, the President, for the invitation. I think hopefully your feeling since we've got to know each other over the last year has been one where I like to be as open as I can be with you, because you are the conduit between what we're trying to do at the Federation and with the national team out into the world, out into not just the Gambians across the nation here, but around the world. So, you have a very important role to play. I like understanding what you guys are trying to do. Hopefully you guys can understand what we're trying to do. But also in that, the President mentioned earlier about, the honest assessment and reporting. And I think that's important because, I'm completely open. There will be moments where you feel the need to be positive. There'll be moments you feel the need to be critical. And that's completely fine. That's completely fine. And for me, I think it's also having that understanding that, whilst you might want me to give you everything, sometimes we have to keep some things, behind us until the time is right. So I think, but having that open and honest relationship where the information can flow as well as it can is important. And yeah, I think tonight's a big part of that. So thank you for the invitation, Mr. President. And yeah, I look forward to, a good evening. Yeah.
I know most of us have a lot of questions for the coach. So I just want to set the ball rolling. I have a few questions to ask him. First is, Coach, you've coached across multiple countries on the continent. How does football development, football culture differ from them, comparing to Gambia? First question.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so obviously to date I've lived and worked in 5 different countries across the African continent. Ghana is where I started many years ago. Some people miss that from my history, but I started in youth football at the Right to Dream Academy, very famed academy, that's produced a lot of top players for the Ghanaian national team. And then obviously Sierra Leone, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, and now here. So sorry, that's 6, isn't it? So yeah, I've traveled across the continent. One thing I would say about the Gambia here that's interesting is that the last 5 years, there's been such an explosion in football here in the Gambia in terms of the quality of players, which is somewhat remarkable and inexplicable to a degree, because all of a sudden there went from being a handful of professional players to being over 150 professional players, almost all of whom were born and bred here in the Gambia, not relying on the diaspora, which is really interesting for me. In terms of the differences, what I would say is Gambia, in terms of the football development and culture here on the ground, is still in its early stages, because I think we can all agree that the infrastructure still needs to develop a lot more. And if you look in terms of how the leagues operate in Ghana, in Kenya, and Rwanda, the level of professionalism, because obviously the GFF Division 1 is looking to turn professional over the next couple of years. And so there's definitely, in terms of facilities, for example, at my last club, Gor Mahia, when we sealed the championship on the last day of the season, there was 18,000 people in the stadium. We had a stadium for the league, multiple stadiums for the league that can host that many people. And it's the same in Rwanda, same in Uganda. So you can see that there's a journey that we still have to go on here in the Gambia. But the one thing that the Gambia definitely does have, more than Rwanda, more than Uganda, more than Kenya, more than Sierra Leone, I have to say, is that talent that's coming through. I don't think you see as many young players breaking through in those countries as you do here. And so almost we have to get in a hurry to try and make sure the facilities and the infrastructure keeps up with the talent development, because if it doesn't, if we can't catch up, then maybe the talent development might slow down, and none of us wants that. All of us want to see these players pushing and developing across world football.
Yeah. Thank you. So I don't know how do we do this. I think to make it easy for the cameraman, the one asking question can just come here. Is it easy for you, or is it okay for the individual to just stand up? Okay, so Malamin, we can throw the mic to the floor.
Yes, anyone?
MS.
Okay. Yes, your mic will go with this time.
Korga, what of your mic?
It can't be moving. It can't be moving. It's already on a cable. It's okay.
It's okay.
The question is.
Good evening. My name is SJAG, Head of Sports and Television Services. I will begin by saluting the efforts of the SJAG under the dynamic leadership of Omar and team for this wonderful initiative, and also Coach McKinstry accepting honoring this invitation through my good friend and brother Barbara. Yes, my first question is, Coach, I believe this is your first interface with the local press after the country failed to qualify for the 2025 African Cup of Nations. I would begin by asking, what would you attribute to the Gambia's failure to qualify for the African Cup of Nations?
Sorry, could you repeat the end of that?
So what's the attribute? What's
What
your
would you
attribution?
attribute
Oh, the reason, okay.
The reasons to
Yeah.
qualify for the African Cup of Nations?
Yeah.
The good one.
the other one is
Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, I think it's absolutely important to start there. It's the right place to start because we had big ambitions. You know, we've been to 2 African Cup of Nations in a row, and our ambitions absolutely were to qualify again. What would I attribute it to? I think we had a slow start. We definitely had a slow start. If you look in those 2 opening games against the Comoros, where we dominated the game but ended up drawing 1-1 in match day 1, and then again against Tunisia, really having quite a good game and creating a lot of chances, but you know, coming away and not getting any points in it. And into match day 3, again dominating the game against Madagascar but only taking a point. So really, to only take 2 points from the opening 3 games for us on a technical level was very disappointing, because when you look back at the games, really our minimum expectations in review, not even before the games, but in review, our minimum expectations would be to take at least 6 points, not 2. And so when we had that slow start and a couple of other nations did okay to begin with, it sort of left us playing catch up a little bit. And then that brings the pressure on it. So I definitely think a slow start was a big part of it. I also think the group as a whole have new things to learn, because I think everyone watching the games, or hopefully everyone, can see that there's been a big shift in how we're trying to play the game. You know, we're definitely, you know, the team's position is a lot higher up the field. We're using the ball a lot more. We're passing it a lot more. And we've seen a lot of improvements in various areas. But with those improvements, we also have to say that there's been areas that previously weren't ever going to be an issue because of the style of play, like being caught on the counter-attack, which now the players need to be very aware of. And so there was a few moments in the campaign where defensively we had lapses in concentration when we were in the attacking phase and we were hit on the counter. And also there was a few moments where we were just a little bit untidy with our play. So these are in essence new things which come because of what we're trying to do with the ball. So we're very clear on where we need to improve on. Everyone very disappointed in terms of not sealing qualification. And look, it's our job to put it right. We're going, we feel, in the right direction football-wise. But ultimately, you know, I could throw all the statistics and all of the improvements at you in the world. And from a technical point of view, it's important for us in the building. But we also know that pass completion rate, XG, you know, all of these things don't really matter an awful lot if we don't get the job done. So absolutely, we're disappointed in ourselves that we weren't able to convert what was some very good play into results, but we're going in the right direction. Obviously, taking 6 points from the last 3 games is positive, and we just have to keep going now in the World Cup qualification.
I have a follow-up question to that. Like my colleague said, you've taken on a qualifying campaign. Eventually you fail after the country's appearance twice, 2 successive appearances. Now, what steps, be specific here, what steps do you think you need to take as the head coach to make sure these problems that you've highlighted have been solved?
Yeah, and that's one of the big reflections in terms of how do we fix the things that need fixing. Look, when we look at the performances over the last 6 games, 8 games if you go back and include the 2 World Cup qualifiers, one of the things we've seen is that we are creating a lot more chances than ever before. You know, I know I told you I could throw XG at you all day, but I will give you it. In the previous qualifying campaign for the previous AFCON, before my arrival, the team's XG was 4.5, and they scored 7 goals. So the expected goals was 4.5, but they scored 7. In this campaign just concluded, our XG was 12.5, and we only scored 6. So in terms of the quality of chances, we almost tripled the XG, which is a big shift. Trust me, that's a big shift. And so in terms of the process and the build-up, we're doing very well, but we weren't clinical enough. So one of the things is we need to make sure we're clinical, and that's not just about a technical thing, that's also about additional players arriving in the box at the right time, the timing of runs, the awareness that it can't just be 1 player or 2 players we're relying on. There has to be a variety of players getting involved in that. And so I think that's one of the big things. Also for me, when I go back and review the games, I want us to be more competitive in midfield. You know, I think if you look back at my teams over the last 15 years, my midfield have always been very competitive. That doesn't mean that they're all physical players, but it means even if they are a more diminutive player, more in the style of Xavi or Iniesta, they can still break up play very effectively, and I think we need to do better at that. And ultimately another big thing is, which we've started to fix, is we need to be better at defending set pieces. This is a historical problem for the Gambia, going back 7-8 years. Set piece defending has always been an issue, but that doesn't mean it's an excuse to say, well, it's always been an issue, so it always should be an issue. No. The last few games we've done better at it, but there's still improvement to go. So yeah, being cleaner, clinical around the box, because we're creating the chances, we just need to take them. More competitive in the midfield, and in general, better and tighter at defending set pieces.
Thank you, Coach. Kambo.
Yes, thank you very much. Coach. Thank you very much. For organizing this press conference. My name is Ibrahim Jara, commonly known as Kambo, Deputy Head of Sport at Start. Yeah, first of all, I would say hard luck for the qualifying for the AFCON. But one equal to dip in football, sometimes when you lose and your performance is everybody's happy. You will the style of play that you are playing. So are we going to see the same style of play for the upcoming qualifier rounds? Also, that we did that our more young players also who are playing regularly. Because of one thing I like players who are playing regularly are going to play for the Barcelona. It is very good. Are we going to see, especially your last game against Algeria? It was absolutely amazing. You give chance to the players that are we going to see this type of performance in the qualifiers?
Yeah, thank you. So, like, I almost want to, you'll find, I think you maybe find I don't take praise very lightly when I don't necessarily think it's hugely deserved, because I don't like that saying hard luck for not qualifying. You know, because yes, luck can play a part in sports, and it does, but for me, when I look at it, we need to be more clinical. So yes, you know, I appreciate people saying, you know, you're playing good football and we like what you're doing, but ultimately for me, you know, I got into football to win. You know, I want to win in a certain way, but, you know, I don't turn around to our players and say hard luck. I say, here's the issues, and we need to go about fixing them. Because if we always say hard luck and we don't look at ourselves honestly in the mirror, and identify our weaknesses, whether that's as a team or me as an individual coach, we're never going to improve. So, you know, for me, I appreciate the sentiment, but, you know, trust me, we're not taking that approach inside the dressing room. For us, it's not talk about, oh, we were lucky, unlucky. It's talking about, okay, here's the good things we're doing, but also here's the things we need to improve on if we're going to be successful. And in terms of the playing style, look, I was employed to play a certain type of football. You know, when I met with the leadership of the GFF, it was very clear that there was a strong desire to change the way the team were playing, to go to a more offensive, a more aggressive, a more sort of pressing style of football. When I spoke to all of the players, in that first week in the job back in May, before I'd even landed in the Gambia, I made 50 or 60 phone calls to all the players who'd been around the team, and I said to them, I didn't even talk at first. I said, what do you want to do? How do you want to play the game? And again, I got a resounding, we want to go toe-to-toe with teams. We don't want to sit back and wait to win off a corner or win off one counter-attack. We want to go toe-to-toe with teams. And if you follow my career, that's how my teams play. And so I was employed to play a certain brand of football. So to answer your question is, can you expect to see a continuation of what we've been doing? Yes, and I hope you will see a development of what we've been doing in terms of going and playing that attractive style of football. In terms of the player selection, look, I don't know if you're aware of this. In the last 8 games, so I've obviously been with the Gambia for 8 games, we've given 13 debuts in 8 games. 13. And there's another 2 players who were in squads but didn't make it onto the field. So in total, across those 4 training camps, we've had 15 new faces around the Scorpions. That's a lot. In 8 games, to have 15 new faces and 13 debuts, it's a lot. But at the same time, when we do our reflection, we also look at camp to camp. Usually we've got about 75–80% of the same players coming back. You know, so if you look at the October squad and then the November squad, usually about 18 to 20 are the same as the previous. So we've managed to introduce 13 new players, but also keep continuity, you know, that stability within the squad, which is not easy to do. So I'm quite pleased with that. What I do think it means is whilst we will always give opportunities to new players when they deserve it, I think you might see a slight slowing down. Do I think over the next 8 games we will give another 13 debuts? No, I don't think so. I think we will give some debuts, but you might see it at a lower number. Because again, it's not about, you know, roulette. Whatever number comes up is the winner. We're building a team here. And so, yes, people who are playing and performing will get their opportunity, but we're at a stage now, and it's a good problem to have for the Scorpions and for me, is that we only name, given, depending on the situation, we'll name 23, 24 players in a final squad. I would suggest to you that there's at least 35 players who can honestly, hand on heart, say to themselves, I believe I deserve to be in the final squad. And I can't disagree with that. When I sit in front of my laptop, even today, I was looking because I've got 95% of the squad I'm going to release to you guys on Thursday nailed down. But the final couple of positions, I'm looking at going, I'm going to really break a few people's hearts by not having them in the squad. But that's when we'll get into a debate, because you might say, oh, why did you not pick him? And that's fine, because there will be people who deserve a chance who will miss out. And that's just the nature of it. But you know what? I would rather have that situation than us only have 3 or 4 players who are playing regularly and we're having to call up people who don't have a club or people who are not in the matchday squad, because we can look at some nations around us and they still have to do that. And so for us, we will disappoint some people. You as journalists, me as a coach, will disagree on some of the selections. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, we'll keep giving chances to the people who deserve it.
So before I will come to use my job. Then can I use this? So
this is one of the questions that has been sent to me, asked you on their behalf. And this question is, over the last 4 months, Gambian centre backs have not impressed at club level, and 1 or 2 were on league break. Does this worry you, and how do you plan to address this issue?
Yeah, well, I would in essence disagree with the point, is what I would first of all do. And this is where I say we can have differences of opinion, so that's fine. What is actually the case is a number of our centre backs, firstly, play in leagues that either play in the alternate season, you know, so obviously you've got people like, well, James had a winter break. Lion and Jai, who obviously was in the off season. Daddy Dudu Gay as a defender, centre back, right back in his off season doing pre-season. Babukar and Jai on the left hand side pre-season. So we've got a number of players who at the end of last season were doing very, very well. And the reason you're not seeing news updates about them over the last 2 months is because their season finished in November and their new season starts in March and they're in pre-season training. Or in the case of the players in Denmark, they had a winter break and they only started back playing. I think James has had 2 games since the restart. You also have someone like Sheriff Sinyan, who's now fully fit again and had a fantastic season last year in Norway in the second half of the season, playing 90 minutes every week. And he got a transfer to Cluj in Romania, but they're midway through their season. They're second in the league, 1 or 2 points away. And he has to wait for his chance to play, you know, because the coach isn't going to change the centre backs when they're doing well, you know what I mean? And so he also is doing well. And so I think in general, across the board, actually, our defenders have been doing okay. There's a few guys are coming back. Alaji Sian is back from injury now, was in the matchday squad, came on as a sub last week for Horsens. Dembo Saidikan has had a good year developing over in Canada. Let's see if he gets some minutes in the MLS this year. And Idrissa Cisse now is back with a club he's signed out in Kuwait. So, you know, he's playing, he played last weekend. So, you know, I wouldn't necessarily agree with the point of the question. I think we have centre backs who are playing in a different season cycle. We've got guys who've had a winter break. You know, another one we didn't even mention there, we've got a young centre back in Finland, Musa Jata, who's breaking through a little bit his debut season. He's played a few pre-season games for Aula. So again, centre back's not a position I'm concerned about massively. There's competition for places there. There's a good age profile from the senior ones to the younger ones. And yeah, it's just about making sure they're fit and they're ready for action when they come in for us. Yeah.
No, let me just. Okay.
Thank you very much, Coach. My name is Lamin Jiba. I work for the Point newspaper. I have a couple of questions, but then I will ask one. So, yes. What is how do you feel playing at home? Playing your home games away?
So I would say my feelings about it are probably the same as your feelings about it, in terms that it's incredibly frustrating and disappointing. And I can tell you that's the same for all the players, all of the staff. You know, everyone is desperate to get back and play at home. Now, but I do have something more to say on this. You know, I was at the stadium today, you know, and I walked out on the grass, I walked around the grass, and I can genuinely tell you, if the reason that stadium is not sanctioned to play, if we're being told it's the pitch, what I will tell you is the pitch that we played Tunisia on match day 2, and we played, who else did we play at that venue? Did we play Madagascar when we won 1-0 on that pitch in Tunisia? Or not in Tunisia, in Morocco? The pitch at our stadium is exactly the same quality as the pitch that we were allowed to play on in Morocco. the pitch at our stadium is better than the pitch that we played and lost 3-2 against Gabon back in June, and the Chan team played on a couple of days ago. It is a better pitch than that pitch. Not a single one of our players or opposition players, if they came and walked out on that pitch, not a single one of them would complain about it. Is it the best pitch in the world? No, it's not. But is it on the same standard as multiple pitches that are certified across the continent of Africa and indeed Europe to play football on? 100% it is. 100% it is. So when I walk out onto that and I feel we're being denied to play home games, and the thing that's on record is that it was the pitch. Now, I agree. A few months ago, the pitch was in a different condition than it is today. I agree with that as well. But what I'm saying is the pitch I walked out on today, you could 100% play a football match, an international level football match on. So I spoke to people from the National Sports Council today. I've obviously been speaking to the guys at the GFF. And, you know, so for me it's perplexing as to why we're not being allowed to play at home. Because I walk into the stadium, I go into the dressing rooms, I go into the media tribunes, I walk around the stadium, and I know it's good enough to play international football in. So let's see. The next one's in September. You know, I'm just calling on CAF. They have, like, I see no reason. I've coached on this continent for 15 years. I've been in Europe and Asia. The stadium is ready. The stadium is ready. So, but it's not in our hands to give out the certificate. They've got to give out the certificate. So, yeah. I'm a bit passionate about that one. I'm a bit, yeah.
That's Kevin now.
But anyhow, deputy, but that's Kevin now.
Yeah, that's Kevin. Okay. Good evening, coach, and thank you very much for honoring this invitation. My name is Ibrahim Akebi Songo, an executive member of SJAG, a blogger and a freelancer. I have a couple of questions, though. First, I will ask this. You know, of late, Gambia has been conceding goals. What are the tactical changes will you make to improve our defense? And secondly, you know, we struggle in midfield, but we have abundant talent, you know, forward, abundant talent in our forward. How will you balance the team to strengthen the midfield to control while we maximize our attacking strength?
So I will encourage all of you to at least ask one question. Yes, Lisa.
So yeah, and I think you probably get to know me about this. I do correct some questions. So actually the idea that we've been conceding more goals is inaccurate. We conceded less goals in this qualifying campaign than in the previous one, and our expected goals conceded was down considerably. So again, we gave up less chances to our opponents in the most recent qualifying campaign compared to the previous one, and we conceded less goals in the most recent qualifying campaign compared to the previous one. So actually, defensively, we've improved. I think the thing that has frustrated, that's highlighted the goals that's been conceded, is compared to the last campaign. In the previous campaign, the Gambia had less of the ball. They were less in control of the games. The opposition tended to be more in control of the games. Whereas in this campaign, in some of the games, we've had like 60+% possession. And so when we concede a goal, having had so much possession, it's almost like a light bulb goes off in your head that you really notice and remember it more. But actually, in terms of opposition chances, there's been much less. It's like, it's not quite down 50%, but it's like a 40% reduction in opposition chances across the campaign. And in terms of goals conceded, it's down as well. So it is less, but does that mean we need to not worry about it? No, not at all. I think one of our things is making sure we're ready to defend counterattacks against us, which is new for the Gambia because we're sitting higher up the pitch than we've ever done before. So teams, if they get a chance, it's more likely to be a counter-attacking chance. And in terms of the midfield, I would agree. We need a little bit more control in the midfield. I said I want my midfielders to be a little bit more aggressive. And we just need to be, I think, there's definitely moments when you look back at the last campaign, there's been moments where the opponents have come very aggressive in the midfield and very physical, and we've not maintained our calmness and composure. I think we did a lot better with it against Tunisia in the final game. I think they came hard at us, and I think the midfielders did very well against Tunisia for it. But yeah, it's definitely an area of focus in terms of just balance. I'm not giving you any secrets away. You will see a update in terms of what we're doing in the next games. Same style, but we're updating it in a specific way. So you'll see it in the games. But yeah, and that's in order for us to have a bit more competitiveness in the midfield and for us to have a bit more control. Not like different players, because you look at the players we have in the midfield, all very good, very competitive, but yeah, just maybe one or two of their instructions are going to change slightly. Yeah.
Yusufa Job?
Yes, Yusufa now. After Yusufa.
Coach, thank you, and of course, Omar, the SJAG. My name is Yusufa Job, sports presenter at the State Radio, JRTS. I want to take you back to when you say you were employed to play beautiful football, because a lot of people are not happy with how the team was playing, but then results were coming. Now that you're trying to change, performance-wise is good, but results are not coming. Does it give you a dilemma, or have you ever sat down and think how to balance it? Rather than just trying to change at once, results are not coming, but even though performance-wise, you can say it's good. You talked about statistics here. With all those statistics, at the end of the day, it doesn't get the country to AFCON. Have you ever sat down and think, okay, do we need to balance as to how we defend and attack instead of going all out? And do you think we are ready to go toe-to-toe, especially big teams like Ivory Coast that we will be playing in the World Cup qualifiers?
Have I considered changing? No, because this is the way my teams have always played and have always won. Does that mean every team plays exactly the same? Is the way my Rwanda team the same as the way my Uganda team played? No, because you take into account the specific players and you apply what we're trying to do in a slightly different way depending on the players we have. But in terms of the overall emphasis of play, and look, for me, people would say if you want to defend well, you should be closer to your own goal. But actually, I would suggest you, for example, Liverpool defend quite well, and they go and press the hell out of the game, they go, but it's just a different type of defending. It's defending higher up the field rather than, and so, look, there's no right way to play football. I would never sit here and say someone who does it differently than we're trying to do it is doing it wrong. No. Someone said to me earlier today, we're all trying to add up to 10. You maybe do 5 plus 5. I might do 7 plus 3. So, but it's the way I want my teams to play, and it's very much about we need to get better. We need to get better at doing it. The other thing as well is, and people overlook this, literally we were 1 goal away. If we'd scored 1 more goal in 4 of our games and turned a draw into a win, or a defeat against Tunisia in the first round into a draw, we've qualified. 1 goal is the finest of margins. And when you look at it and say, well, our XG for the campaign was 12 and we only scored 6, you can see that we had the chances to score that 1 goal. And so it's also that, look, not qualifying is a huge disappointment for everybody, but I think the worst thing we can do is, off a disappointment, throw out all the good work that we're doing. And so it's just about being better and being more clinical at what we are doing.
So please, 3 more questions. We have 10 minutes. No, we are not coming back. After Iftar, we are not coming back.
I bet you know.
You can reserve for those days.
Thank you very much, Jonathan McKinstry, head coach, for honoring this invitation, and special thanks to SJAG for facilitating this meeting. I am Lamin M. Fati of LSTV1. I just have a question, maybe two questions, but fused in one. Coach, in the recent selections, we've not seen most of the players coming from other parts of Africa, and we believe we have very good players that are plying their trade in other parts of Africa. Are you having an eye or closer look at those players? If yes, how soon should we expect to have those players in the national team? And in the recent visit to the Gambia, we've also seen you having some interactions with some of the top division clubs. Are you having an eye on some of the players that are playing their trade in the Gambia? If yes, do you believe we have players in the National League that can simply break into the senior national team?
So yeah, in terms of the players playing on the continent, yes, 100%. Obviously, we've already called players up who are playing on the continent, because if you remember when we invited Idrissa Cisse, he was playing in Senegal. And I think partly because he got the exposure of the national team, he got his move up to Europe through that. Obviously, we've had Lamine Seydi from the local league here, from Real de Banjul, in the last few squads as well, and he's done well. So absolutely, we're tracking the guys. And look, we know, obviously, we've got players, you know, we've got the likes of Sila, who's doing well in Tanzania. We've got Jata, who's doing well. He's now finally getting a run up in Egypt. You know, he's been in Egypt a couple of years. Last season didn't play so much. This season's playing more, although El Guna struggling at the bottom of the league. You know, they're a small budget team, El Guna. They're fighting sort of above their weight level there. And obviously also up in Tunisia at Esperance. So we know we've got guys out there in the leagues. And we're keeping a track on them, getting their videos, monitoring them, being in contact with some of them. And yeah, there is an opportunity for them. I think one of the things that we've got to balance as well, though, is when we look at leagues and the strength of leagues, it's also important to look beyond the big teams in that league. So, for example, in Tanzania, you've got Simba, you've got Yanga, you've got Azam, who are the big money teams. But the teams at the bottom of the Tanzanian league are not much bigger than some of our teams here in the GFF First Division. So the quality of the league at the top end of it is very strong, but the bottom of it can potentially be very weak. And that's the same, like to compare El Guna, for example, with Al Ahly is like comparing a cow and a chicken. They're both animals, but they're very different animals. And so we have to balance all of those things. So we like that the guys are playing well and making a career for themselves. We also look at things like age profile a little bit. Because if you are 29, 30, 31 and playing, maybe it's not quite your opportunity. But yeah, we're looking at it, going around the GFF leagues. You know, I was at a Division 2 team today as well. That's about understanding who's coming next. So who's coming next on the pipeline, and again, if you're good enough, you'll get your chance. What I would say is, I've already said, the competition for places in the Scorpions is remarkably high, especially in certain positions, remarkably high. And so even players who are playing like in the professional leagues in Europe get disappointed. So it is a challenge, but I've called up players from domestic leagues before. I'd be happy to do it again in the future.
So we have only 4 minutes. Campo, please help me.
Summarize your question.
I am very hungry, man. Good evening, Coach, and good evening to my colleague here as well. My name is Kasim Sissoko, commonly called Oscar. I will take you back, like during the qualifiers, our one of our games, I believe, was winnable fixture for us against Tunisia. We first score. You do mention here some of the slow starts the team has during the qualifiers that warranted Gambia not making it 3 in a row. What are the reasons you believe cause teams to have slow starts in magnitude games like that? And also the likes of Omar Colley, Minte, and Musa Barrow, you couldn't find the best of them, or was it you couldn't find the best of them, or they are not able to find the best of themselves in that particular match?
So yeah, you specifically asked about the Tunisia game on match day 2, where we lost 2-1. Yeah, and we just didn't take our chances. We had bigger chances in that game than Tunisia. We conceded a really silly free kick, if I remember correctly. And yeah, look, I think over the course of the campaign, all of the players you've mentioned played well. You know, if you look at Yankuba and Musa in the attacking areas, you know, they both scored goals, got assists, generally did what we expect them to do. And, you know, for Omar, again, part of a defense that, like I said, we cut down opposition chances by like 50%, and we you know, our XG against was so low. So we just need to do a little bit better. It's not about 1 or 2 players. It's about everybody, but everyone's really focused on it. And I think you saw in the second game against Tunisia very much what is possible from this group of players. So, yeah, I think it's just a case of keep adding to what we're doing.
So, Molami, that's the final question. You can take your time and ask.
Yeah.
Before the food comes. Just ask. You can take food. Before the food comes.
Yes. Annie, one question. Each is entitled to one question.
No, you can ask. Yeah, you can.
Okay, good evening, Coach. This is a public view, like whenever the Gambia is playing here, they come out otherwise. People will be saying that maybe they are not receiving any support from the GFF or other international bodies or the government. And I want to know whether you have any technical support for, assisting you in your work.
So yeah, what I can say is both in terms of government and GFF support, I couldn't really ask for any more. They've been very supportive in terms of the extra tools that we need. So when I arrived, I think the GFF had the basic pack. So there's an online scouting platform called Y-Scout, which allows you to track players around the world. The GFF had the most basic version of that package when I arrived. We changed from that to the most extensive package. So in terms of our player tracking, it's at the same level as Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, etc. We brought in GPS technology that wasn't there previously, camera technology that wasn't there previously. In terms of the games, protein shakes, energy stuff, you know. So in terms of all of the things that I've asked for, the GFF and the government have found the money for. So we couldn't really ask for more. We stay in good hotels, we have good training facilities, good equipment, and yeah, I couldn't really ask for more in terms of support from the two organizations. It's been good.
Yes? Okay, MS. No, Oscar, you ask. So let's MS. Do you have any question? No, but we're asking you, and then also didn't ask.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Coach. My name is Abdullah Jau, a media personnel, a sport journalist as well. But my question is, what were some of the things you learned about Gambian football prior to thinking that you're the right candidate for the job? And when you came to the Gambia, how are you working with the football authorities in making sure those maybe gaps or loopholes that you've observed in Gambian football that you think were missing, that when you come, you connect the dots. How far are you working with the football authority in making sure you connect those dots in order to realize at least development in Gambian football? Thank you.
So in terms of before I came into the position, when you look at the Gambian team, I just seen a lot of player profiles. The profiles of the players in the team, I just looked at and felt these players could play my type of football very well. You know, if you were picking jigsaw pieces to put the picture together, these were the players that would play my type of football very well. So that's what attracted me to it. In terms of here, yeah, there are gaps. There's no doubt about it. We're still a developing football nation. But one of the things I've been doing, and actually we've been meeting about it this week with the technical department, with the general secretary's department, with the national teams department, is about ideas that I have, and we're going to be sitting down and having discussions with the technical people at the FA about our football development strategy over the next 5 years. How can we make sure that the players we're producing now are utilized the best they can, but how can we make sure we continue producing those high-level players? So that's been part of the stuff. Obviously, we've not had a game since November, so as well as tracking the players, I've been working quite hard in the background on sort of development ideas, and now the technical director, the executive are also assessing my proposals to say, okay, what of this do we want to put in action over the coming years? So yeah, it's not just about the first team. When we have time, it's about how can we make sure Gambian football grows and develops over the coming years. Yeah.
Okay, so Molami, I'll suggest we pause and Iftar. So we're gonna take 3 last questions after Iftar and then we'll go home. Is that okay? Yeah. Ababuka? Yes. Coach? Yeah, I just want to. Okay, guys, welcome back, and I hope it was. Could you've enjoyed the food? Huh? So we are trying to wrap up now. So far, it has been going on fine, and then you've been really being honest to the questions, which I like so much. I have one, or let's say 2 questions, but I'm going to ask one and then throw it back to the floor. So this one is regarding the composition of your staff, which appears from the outside as quite... Yeah, this has to do with the composition of your staff. Outside, it appears so bloated. And then can you explain the essence of having 2 goalkeeper trainers at the national team level? Is it simply because of, I'm going to quote from someone to say that the one that came, you can clarify that too, is your friend. And then does it mean that also you don't have that power to decide on a goalkeeper trainer for the national team? Do you need 2 goalkeeper trainers for the national team?
So, well, first of all, I think, look, when you've come up in this, like I said, a developing football structure like we have here in the Gambia, people are so used to having, like, you know, 1 head coach, 1 assistant coach, 1 fitness coach, and 1 medic. But actually, if you went to most professional football clubs around the world, all of them actually, most of them have 2 goalkeeper coaches. I'm quoting that because you've asked specifically about goalkeeper coaches. But it's very common, actually, in the professional game to have a lead goalkeeping coach and an assistant goalkeeping coach. Not every club, but a lot of top-tier clubs would have that situation. So that's the first thing, is that in that specific instance, actually, having 2 goalkeeping coaches, because often you need services. It's a very intricate position, the goalkeepers, you know, services, you know, different things for the goalkeepers to do. So having the extra body is quite common. But in general, what I've always done with any staff, if you look at all of my clubs and international teams, I generally have a thing where if we bring someone from the outside in because we feel there is, because we want the best, okay? That's the key. If we can get the best from inside of the Gambia, then we go for it. If we feel there's added expertise and experience from outside the Gambia that we can afford, we'll bring them in. But I always, and through my entire career, I've always said if we bring someone from the outside in, we should also have someone from inside learning from them, okay? So if you even look, so actually you also mentioned for the goalkeeping coach, Danny Cadena, Danny and I had never worked together prior to this. In fact, we'd spoken for the first time about 6 weeks before he took the job because he was highly recommended to me from someone I trust in the game. And so, and he's fitted in fantastically, and him and Morong are working excellently together, and I think the goalkeeping department is really benefiting from both of their experience, both that international and domestic. But even you look beyond the squad, obviously Mikhail Legendia, who's come in as our head of performance, very experienced, has been to AFCON with both the Kenyan national team and the Tanzanian national team as a head of performance. So we brought him in, expert in his field. But then we've also got Abdullayan, who is his understudy. You know, Abdullah is also a Gambian fitness coach who is learning and developing and has his skills, but also has more of a journey to go in his experience and education. So he's learning from Mickey in the sports performance department. So it's very common for us to double up so that we upskill the Gambian staff so that in the future, maybe we don't need to bring any international staff in, but we're on that journey. So yeah, that's really what it is. I would suggest our national team staff is quite small compared to some others. I went and watched another national team recently and they had, on the field, they had 17 members of staff on the training field every day. 23 players and 17 members of staff. And that's not like executive or anything, that is coaches, fitness coaches, medics. And so I think we've got 10, so 10's not really bloated.
I just want to exhaust the technical stuff, just two questions only, just to end it with there. And it's good that you've clarified your stance on having two goalkeeper trainers, which is clear. And my next question has to do with the posturing between your two assistant coaches, who both want to be heard and valued, you know. But what do you have to say about that? And exactly, can you confirm who exactly is your first assistant coach?
Well, I'll answer this for the second time, and if any of you remember what my answer to that question was the first time, was that there is no first or second assistant coach. All of my coaching staff, and I extend this to, we have Alaji, we have Abdu, we have obviously Morong, we have Danny, we have Mickey, we have Milad, we have Abdullayan, all technical staff, everyone has a say. The right answer can come from anywhere. The wrong answer can come from anywhere as well, but it's about a collaborative effort. I want as much information as I come, and all of them have different skills. All of them have different skills. Alaji is someone who has huge experience in the game here, domestically, internationally, and his experience of being around the players in the team can't be undervalued. You have Abdu, former national team captain, who's really in the last few years just starting his coaching career, so still has more to learn. Yes, a pro-licensed coach, but even he would say, as I still have more to learn, all of us do, but he's still on his journey. So everyone comes with different experiences, and just like any staff you might want to employ at the Journalists Association, you would like people with different skill sets to come together so that we get the best outcome at the end of it. So yeah, there is no first, there is no second, there is simply people who are asked to give their honest opinions, and then I make a decision.
So the question essentially is, who takes charge if you are not around?
Well, I would only hope that that never happens, because it would suggest that I am ill or something very bad has happened. But in essence, it's my job to be around. We would make a decision in that moment. We would make a decision in that moment.
Finally, from me, it is clear there seems to be a rift in the squad, and which you can see in the goal scoring celebrations, where you see goal scorer and assistant provider often going different directions. Who will you regard as your talisman when it comes to Musa Barrow and Yankuba Minte?
So I also find that funny because I'm pretty sure if you watched like the Manchester United Arsenal game yesterday, not all the players celebrated together. You know, they tend to go in different directions sometimes. Sometimes they come together, sometimes they don't. So no, I would, the idea, I think that's a bit of a, I don't know where you got given that one. That's a bit of a troublemaking question when there's none there. Like, I would say the guys are extremely close. I would actually say that as a group, you've got to remember there's a big age differential in the squad. You know, we've got guys in their early 30s, late 20s, mid-20s, teenagers in there as well, still not even 20. And actually, I think across the group, the camaraderie and the bond is really strong. And look, there are players who naturally get the headlines because maybe they score a goal or get an assist, but let's not make any mistake. There's a lot of guys who maybe don't get the headlines who are equally contributing and equally important to our success on the field. They just might not be the guys that you get printed on the back of your shirt. So everybody's putting in their maximum, and I would say the team bond is actually really strong.
Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to emphasize. I mean, the team bonding. Thank you.
Okay, Coach, it's a pleasure to have you here. My name is Momodu Gajaga. I work at QTV. Sorry? Which one? All right. Want it to be hard?
No, use this one.
Wow.
No, use this
I
one.
think I am not loud enough. Yeah. Okay. Huh? This one? Okay. Okay. Oh, no. It's okay, boy. Okay. No, don't worry, boy. I don't want to show. I'm good. Okay, Coach, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for coming, honoring our invitation. My name is Momodu Gajaga. I work at QTV as the lead sports presenter there and also reporter. My question is in regards to the upcoming World Cup qualifiers. We haven't done well in terms of our standings in the group in the World Cup qualifiers. Are you going to use it as an opportunity to get more players to continue on the performance improvement of the team? Or is it you want to try your best shot at it to see for the next 6 games if Gambia can achieve something? Maybe miraculously, if not qualification, but maybe very close to it.
Yeah, so I think overall, look, we go into, especially when it's a competitive game, we go in to try and win the game. Okay, yes, we always want to add to our playing model. We want to take the next step in our development, but we want to win the game because regardless, before we even get into the discussion of how difficult or not it will be to qualify for the World Cup, you got to remember winning competitive games gets you world ranking points, it helps move you up the FIFA table, and that has an impact on future groups. Because you got to remember when we came into, for example, the most recent AFCON group, we were the 4th seed. We were the bottom-ranked team going into our AFCON group. So can we, by winning football matches, become a 3rd seed and then a 2nd seed? Because then it becomes more straightforward to qualify. So we're going to go out and try and win the football matches. The World Cup, look, we've got 3 points, but we've got to play Kenya home and away. We've got to play the Seychelles again. We've got to play Burundi again, obviously Cote d'Ivoire again, and Gabon again. So there's a lot of football still to be played. Is it a bit of a hill? I wouldn't call it a mountain, but it's definitely a hill that has to be climbed. And we've got to pick up results, and we've got to pick them up quickly. So we're going to go and see, can we get 6 points, 4 points from this window? If we can, then it's game on. You know, maybe 1st place in the group is a stretch, but 2nd place after these games, if we do well, could be very possible. And then in terms of using it for players, like I said earlier, we've given out 13 debuts in the last 8 games. That's a lot. Will we give some more debuts out over the coming 8 games? 8, 9 games? Yes, absolutely. I don't think it will be as many as 13. You might see another 3 or 4 guys, but at the same time, stability is also very important. So we're going to try and keep improving our game. We're going to try and win football matches, and if players deserve to be brought into the lineup, they'll get their chance. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming. That's definitely the final question. We have another press conference on Thursday. So I think we can keep whatever questions that we have for that. And once again, Omar and team, congratulations for this laudable initiative. You could see from the very moment when the coach was appointed, almost a year ago now, he's been very open with the media, and this is something that will definitely continue. You know that there are challenges when it comes to covering the national team matches, especially when they are played outside of the Gambia. We started something, and we want to encourage that. The coach is obviously there with an in-house media from the GFF, but we try as much as possible to conduct interviews pre and post match. So in the event that anyone has questions, you can always send your questions. We will ask the coach, and he will continue to give those frank and honest answers as much as he can. So thank you, Omar, and it's all yours now.
Thank you very much, Babukar. Thank you so much, Emel. Honestly, I want to commend Mr. Jonathan for this. I want to conclude by sincerely thanking colleagues that have attended this very, very, very important event for the SJAG. And like I said from the beginning, we want this to be a recurrent activity that is only geared towards interacting and discussing matters that are so much beneficial to the national team. And be rest assured that our doors are always open as one of the very, very important stakeholders in football development. I also want to seize this opportunity to commend you for the foresight, but also for engaging in grassroots, because I think it is good to note this for everyone to know the initiation that you took, or the initiative that you took to attend trainings, to watch and monitor these players that are playing in the league. It is quite essential. And this, for me, will go in a long way in boosting the morals of these players that are playing in the league, renewing commitment and their hopes of one day or the other is going to be my chance and my turn to play for the national team. So I want to commend you for that. It's a very great step that you're taking, and we are aware of it. On that note, we want to also thank the leadership of the Federation for opening their door to this initiative. And I hope from here, the door will continue to open, and then anything that we need between the SJAG and the GFF through the communications department to you, the head coach, will remain available. The rest, we can take care of it. I know the Federation cannot take SJAG members to games or to qualifiers. But as an association, we are doing everything possible also to have reporters attached to national teams. You know, not because of we are not getting information from the games or the team. We send him questions sometimes, and that is the relationship that we have with him. But also, it's always good to have an independent eye attached to the national team. Not for anything, not for scrutiny, not for anything, but also to serve the larger purpose. And that we are going to work very hard to make sure that we have representatives also attached to not only national teams, senior, but also the junior categories. Because at the end of the day, the communications department cannot also do it alone. You know. So thank you very much, Coach. I am very, very happy, honestly, for honoring this invitation. And then we are ready to work with you hand in hand to make sure that Gambian football develops from this stage to the desired stage. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank